guys, I've just come home for Easter, hence the change of scenery, and I've also just got back from a couple of weeks ago actually, repping a tour in Amsterdam. So this video is basically just going to be telling you about what that was like and giving you a couple of tips if it's something that you're going to be doing in the future. So this is Kate's Compass, let's get started. So let's start off with the thing that everyone's really interested in, the pay. So when you're trip repping, you get your transport and accommodation included and you get some money towards your meals. The meal reimbursement may vary from company to company, but I'd guess it would be pretty standard for them to pay at least something towards your meals. What Unitrips did is it had a review system and you would be paid based on your review system. You could be paid up to £75 for the 2-4 days that you were working, or you could be paid nothing. It would all depend on the review. Also, again, the way Unitrips does it, it's not particular to you, it's basically an average review of the whole thing from all the different tour groups going on that weekend that came under Unitrips. They don't go if you want to be earning money. Go because you want the work experience, go because you want to see a little bit of the city that you'll be working in. It is a really great thing to do. It's not a particularly stressful job, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, don't do it because you want something that is like financially beneficial. It's financially beneficial in terms of travel because it is a much cheaper way of seeing a certain city, or at least parts of a city, but it's definitely not going to be getting you out of your overdraft anytime soon. Let's talk about what you're actually going to be doing on the trip. If it's in a different city, then the company may reimburse you for the transport. Maya, my friend, and myself had to get a train to Liverpool from Sheffield, and they basically paid for us to get the train there. And we met the group that we were going to be leading, got them on the coach and checked them in. Getting the group onto the coach just means taking a register, doing a head count, and telling them when you were going to be arriving in Amsterdam. You may also have to collect key deposits depending on your hostel and depending on the company you're working with, any groups that you're going to be picking up along the way, and getting them to fill in a ferry form. It wasn't difficult at all. In our case, the coach was a little bit late, which did make things a little bit harder. We did have to explain some things, and it was raining at the time. Things can go wrong on these trips and it's not necessarily your fault. So like when the coach was late, we just had to explain to, we just had to be open, but we also had to be professional. Just making sure that they weren't worried about their trip because, you know, they want to enjoy themselves. But as long as you stay calm and keep in contact with the other reps on WhatsApp, then everything can be sorted. If you need some advice, then they will be there to help you as well. So along the way down to Amsterdam, we stopped off at a couple of different cities to pick up other student groups, any like service station stops, any ferry stops that happen. You do have to do a head count on and off, which can be quite difficult at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we did arrive at like 12:31 and check-in was at 2. So I basically went up to the front desk, explained that we'd arrived, and they kind of helped us out from there. I asked for a bag drop and they showed us the storeroom we could put them in. So we basically guided everyone that was on the tour to put all their bags in the storeroom and then come back at 2 for like the introductory talk, talking about all the tour options and bar crawls that they can go on. So we went to have lunch, we came back, checked into our room. It was all really simple. There was a guy there who gave the talk about all the tours and all the room allocations and everything like that. He was great, he made our life so much easier. So then it was time for dinner and Maya and I headed out into Amsterdam. We had an amazing meal, came back, and it was time for a bar crawl. Bar crawl was on the red light district. The guy who was leading it was the same guy who gave the introduction. He was really good at giving some of the history of the red light district and basically giving a tour of it while also keeping it as a bar crawl. We just went from bar to bar and then at the last club had a couple of drinks. It's hard to call it work, basically just stay at the back with the last person, making sure everyone stays together. It's really not a difficult job. It's made slightly more complicated in Amsterdam because you now no longer allow groups, I think, of over 20 or 25, but they all split up and then your group is just your group, so it's really not that difficult to keep everyone together. Once you're at the last bar and it gets to about 12, or when the reps say you can go, you are free to leave if you want to, you are free to stay and have a drink if you want to. We stayed and had a couple of drinks, it was a really good time, and then we just headed home and went to sleep really. The next day is a free day. We spent it in cafes, we went to like a vintage bookstore which was really cool. We also went to the prostitute museum. Bear in mind that on these tours, if you are repping them, you are not going to see everything in the city. You'd probably have to do a couple of trips to be able to do everything that you wanted to do. And also these kind of tours and excursions don't get paid for by the company. So if you are going to museums, if you are renting bikes or whatever, then it is going to cost you money. Obviously the whole cost of the trip is going to be a lot cheaper than if you decided to go like by yourselves and had to pay for flights, accommodation or whatever, but just bear in mind that this is an extra expense. Also be aware that if you sign the papers to check the people into the hostel, then you're going to be the one the hostel rings if something goes wrong. This wasn't a major issue. I got one phone call and just had to nip back to the hostel to sort things out. It was a little bit annoying, it did disrupt our day a little bit, but if you're the only one there and you have to do it, don't be afraid to do it, because there will be the managers to help sort any problems out. Just explain to the hostel that you'll give your manager a call and talk about the problem. But yeah, just be aware that if you do sign those papers, you will be on call. Second night was a bar crawl. We went around giving vodka shots to everyone. It was so much fun, really had a great night again. You're just kind of helping out, stewarding, making sure everyone stays together and safe. But at the same time, you're talking to the students, you're getting to know them, and you're just having a good time, really. The next day for us didn't really allow much time in Amsterdam at all. We had breakfast at the hostel and then had to get the coach. We checked everyone out of the hostel, got their keys back and returned the keys, got them back onto the coach, gave them t-shirts similar to this one, gave back their key deposits, and set up to pick up the other students from any of the other hostels that we'd been staying at. Again, head counts coming on and off the ferry or on and off at service stations. But once you've done the initial part of the coach bit, it's really not that much work. You kind of just sit there and sleep and deal with the 12-hour journey. I would recommend this job for anyone that is outgoing, anyone that wants to travel, but also anyone that is prepared to be friendly, organised, at least to a reasonable extent. You do have to be quite on it with things like posts on WhatsApp to make sure people know what's going on, what time they need to be places, making sure they're on the coach and head counted, things like that. What I'd say is be on it, don't stress about it. Like, don't make anything any more stressful than it needs to be, but do get on with the job and make sure it's done properly, because that'll prevent problems happening in the future. Once you've done one tour, I think repping would become a lot easier. You kind of know how to do it, and I think if I went back in, there's a couple of things that I would change just to make my life easier and just to make everything a little bit less complicated. So I'm going to share a couple of tips with you now of things I wish I'd have known before we started. Keep your receipts. Okay, if you want to get reimbursed for your food, then you are going to have to keep your receipts. But yeah, just keep your receipts. I didn't do this. So I lost €5 here and there from buying things from cafes for lunch and just not thinking to keep the receipts. So yeah, just keep those safe and don't delete the transport email either. So key deposits. This is usually about €5 to €10. Take that €5 to €10. Try to take that €5 to €10 from every individual rather than having one friend pay for the pair of them. It just makes it a lot easier when you're giving back the deposits. Don't pester people. If they haven't got the money, then it's okay, but just make a note of who paid the £20 and who didn't pay. So you know not to give one person €10 that they didn't pay. I would also say that when they give their key in, give them the €10 or give them the €20 that they paid, just so that you don't have to be fussing with it on the coach. You're collecting the keys anyway. Just be aware as well, with that key deposit, you may be looking after it if the hostel doesn't take it. It might be a policy of the company to take a key deposit, but just be aware that you may be the one looking after it. We were the ones that had to look after our group's key deposit. I think that was for 60 people. Again, with the tip, if things go wrong, just stay calm, just stay professional, explain to people what's going on, talk to your manager about it and see what's going on. You will also get training before you start, just to talk about everything you need to do. Bring a pen, bring the printouts of your register, the ferry check-in list. So I would definitely recommend doing one of these trips. Would I do it again? Consider doing another city, especially if it was a flight to get there, just because you have a little bit more time actually in the city itself as opposed to going on a coach. Once you've been on one, you get put on the list, so every other weekend or so around that kind of tour season, and you might get an email or have a message on Facebook saying, hey, do you want to come on this tour? We haven't got that many people at the moment. So that's like just a really nice thing if you've got a free weekend and a bit of extra cash and you just want to go to Amsterdam. That sounds really strange. And also you can bring a responsible friend. That was Maya. Like, if you've got the opportunity to go on one of these trips, then definitely go on it. I had a great time. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions on trip prepping or any of the things I've talked about in the past in my other videos, then just post it down in the comments below. I also have a blog which I'll put in the description, and you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook if you want to stay up to date with what I am doing. Next video I will talk about my summer plans, which I'm so excited about. I can't wait. So please subscribe if you want to be able to see when that comes out, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening.